Well, hello. In this video, we're going to be looking at Lesson 25. And Lesson 25 is all about multiplying polynomials. But before we get to that point, there's some basic terminology that we need to familiarize ourselves with that are going to apply to what we're going to be talking about today. And one of the things that we need to make sure we understand is this idea of a factor. So if I was to ask you to find the factors of 8, what would you say? If you're having a hard time remembering what a factor is, remember a factor is just simply two numbers that would multiply together to give us that product. So we're looking for two numbers that would multiply together to give us 8. Now hopefully you recognize that there's two possible answers. For example, we could say, if we could take these blocks, if you have your algebra blocks in front of you, we could arrange them into a rectangle like this to say that 1 times 8 would give us 8. There's another way that we could do this, where we could take those same blocks and set them up to be 2 by 4 would give you 8. Now let's think about that for a second. That 2 times 4, those would be the factors. Now what I want you to do is on your note sheet, I want you to draw two lines like I have here on the screen. And I want you to put two blocks on the outside and 4 on the other side there to represent the factors. 2 times 4. And what we would do is on the inside there is we would look to see what cubes, what tiles could we put on the inside of that little box. And hopefully you'd recognize that that's where the 8 would go. So on the outside there, that's what we're going to call the factors. And on the inside would be the product. Now there's a couple different ways that we could write this out. We could say that 2 times 4 would equal 8. We could say that 2 parentheses 4, meaning that we would multiply 2 times 4 would be 8. And we could also represent it vertically by saying 2 times 4 would be 8. And all three of these would be different ways that we could write multiplying these numbers together. Now how does that apply with what we're learning about today? Now today we're going to be using nothing, or in this first part of the video, we're going to be doing nothing but tiles. And actually, let's go back to that previous slide. What I would recommend you doing is just taking a minute to pause this video to write down what we have here, even drawing the little blocks inside the little T there, box, whatever you want to call it, and write down the factors on the outside, the product on the inside, because you want to remember what these different parts represent. For the rest of this video, there's not really going to be a whole lot of note-taking that you're going to have to do. But in the next video after this one, I'm going to show you how you could do this without the tiles. And that's where we're going to be taking some notes. So, multiplying polynomials. Well, the first thing you need to understand is, what's a polynomial? So here's a definition of a polynomial. Now we could break this term up into its prefix and suffix. So for example, poly means many, like a polytheist would be someone that recognizes many gods. So poly means many. And in this situation, nomial represents terms. So if you put those together, we get this phrase, many terms. You might be wondering, well, what's a term? Great question. A term is basically anything that's separated with a plus or minus, addition or subtraction. So in this example, we would have three different terms, with the 4xy squared being one term. The 3x, that would be one term, and the 5 would be another term. So again, each of those little chunks separated by a plus or minus is referred to as a term. So today we're going to be looking at multiplying two binomials. What's a binomial, you might wonder? Well, think about it this way. What does a prefix bi mean? Like a bicycle. How many tires, how many wheels does a bicycle have? Well, obviously 2. So if you take bi and nomial, put them together, you get binomial. So binomial would be two terms. So here we have two terms, x plus 2, and another two terms, x plus 3. So these are two binomials that we're multiplying together. So let's see how we would do this using algebra tiles. So what I want you to do is, this is basically for this lesson, it's not really notes, but I want you to create like a template for yourself. So I want you to get out like a piece of typing paper or blank notebook paper, and I want you to draw two big lines across your page just like this. And you're going to set it up just like this, as far as that intersection is going to be in the top left corner. And now we're going to use our algebra tiles. And you can put the x plus 2, you can put that either on the top or the left side, but so we're all on the same page and doing the same thing. Put the x plus 2 on the left. And then we're going to use an x tile and 3 1s, so x plus 3, we'll put that on the top. And we're going to be using that little t square to represent multiplication. So those are the factors that go on the outside. The product is what's going to go on the inside. So now we have those two x's. Well, what's x times x? X squared. Or you could also find the tile that has the same dimensions as those two blue tiles, and it would be the x squared tile. So we're going to put that in that top left corner. Now, if I were to take the x tile here times the 1 here, well, what's 1 times x? Well, 1 times x would be x. Or if you're using the tiles and trying to match them up, you're trying to figure out what tile would match up with the edge of the x squared with the edge of one of those 1 unit blocks. And that would be the x tile. And you can see then going across the top, we can fill those in with two other x's. And along the bottom, we would do the same thing, where we would have x's there. Now we've got to figure out what's going to go in those missing pieces. Now again, the rule with these algebra tiles is they have to fit perfectly with the edges of the tiles that they're touching. And so we want to find what tiles would go in these special places. We'll hopefully recognize that just the single unit blocks would go here. So we would have 6 blocks down below. So this is our product. We're going to combine the like terms. We're going to combine the tiles that are the same. So we would have x squared. We'd have a total of 5 of those blue x's, so 5 x's, and a total of 6 of those single unit tiles. So we'd have plus 6. So x squared plus 5x plus 6 would be our answer. Let's try another one together. This time, let's say if we have 2x plus 2 times x plus 3. Remember what I said earlier, it doesn't matter which side you put the different factors. So we could put the x plus 3 on the side this time and the 2x plus 2 at the top. And now I want you to maybe see if you can figure out what tiles would go in these places. And hopefully you're doing that right now, and hopefully you're recognizing that you'd put an x squared and another x squared here. And then you'd have your x's on the sides, and we'd have our unit blocks on the bottom right. So your answer would be 2x squared plus 8x plus 6. I want you guys to try one completely on your own this time. So I want you to take and multiply x plus 4 times x plus 1. So the way that you're going to do this is you're going to pause the video right now, and then when you're ready to check to see if you have the correct answer, you're going to hit play and see if you got it correct. So go ahead and hit pause now. All right, let's see how you did. So hopefully you had it set up like this, or again, you could have had it switched the other way around. Either way you do it, you'd end up with an answer of x squared plus 5x plus 4. How'd you do? If you struggled, if you didn't get that one right, maybe go back and rewatch some of those videos or some of those previous examples to see if you can figure out where you made your mistake at. Well, there you go. You just successfully completed the first part to this video of how to multiply two binomials, or how to multiply polynomials together. And hopefully you found this to be relatively simple. And in the next video, you're going to see how we could do this without the algebra tiles. Because you're not always going to have the tiles available to you. Sometimes you're going to have problems where it'd be too large of a problem to be able to work with the algebra tiles. So it's really good to also know how to multiply these together by hand. And I have a really cool way to show you how to do that that makes it very simple. So hopefully you'll do just as well in the next video as you did on this one. So good luck.